I graduated high school in 2017. I was 17 at the time, and I lived in a small suburban town just outside of Portland, Oregon. My graduating class wasn't big, around 120 people, so everyone knew everyone, at least by face. At that age, I wasn't the type to go to big parties or get drunk. I was more of an introverted kind of kid. I liked photography, hiking, and just hanging out with a few close friends. But graduation felt like this massive turning point, that strange mix of excitement and dread that comes with realizing childhood is officially over. The ceremony itself was normal. Hot June afternoon, families fanning themselves with programs, teachers trying not to cry. My mom took a million pictures afterward, me holding my diploma, my arm around my best friend Claire, who was heading to college out of state. Afterward, there was this unofficial graduation party happening at an old barn just outside town. Everyone was going, even the quiet kids. Claire begged me to come. She said it was our last night to hang out before she left for Washington. I remember hesitating because I had work early the next morning, but something in her voice made me say yes. If I had known how that night would end, I would have stayed home. The barn was about 15 minutes out of town, down a long gravel road surrounded by pine trees and farmland. It belonged to someone's uncle, apparently. One of those places that people used for parties because nobody lived close enough to complain about the noise. I got there around 9:30 p.m. The sun had just dipped below the tree line, and the sky was that deep blue you only get in early summer. Cars were parked haphazardly along the dirt driveway. Trucks, beat-up sedans, a few Subarus. I parked near the edge of the field and texted Claire, "Here." Inside, the barn smelled like hay and stale beer. Someone had hung string lights across the rafters, and music thumped from a portable speaker. People were dancing, laughing, playing drinking games on makeshift tables. It was chaotic, but harmless. Claire found me almost immediately, dragging me into the crowd. We danced for a while, took pictures, and sat outside on the back steps with a few others when it got too hot inside. I remember how calm everything felt, how peaceful the air was compared to the noise inside. Around 11 a few people started a bonfire in a field behind the barn. We all migrated out there, forming circles on the grass. It was that golden kind of night, the type you think back on later and realize it marked the end of something you didn't know was ending. At least, that's how I thought of it, until I noticed him. He was standing on the edge of the firelight, just far enough that I couldn't see his face clearly. At first, I thought he was just another classmate, maybe one of the older siblings who'd tagged along. But something about him seemed off. He was dressed too neatly, dark jeans, clean shoes, a button-up shirt, not like someone who planned to spend the night in a dusty barnyard. He wasn't holding a drink, wasn't talking to anyone, just standing there with his hands in his pockets, facing the group but not really watching anything. I tried to ignore it. There were plenty of people there. Maybe he was just shy. But every time I glanced back toward the tree line, he was still there. Same position, same posture. At one point, Claire caught me looking and asked, "What's up?" I pointed, but when she turned, he was gone. She shrugged it off, laughing. "You're just paranoid, dude. Maybe it's one of Tyler's cousins or something." Still, the image stuck in my head. The way his face had been half lit by the fire, motionless, blank, like he was observing instead of participating. Later, when we went back inside to dance again, I saw him through the window, standing near my car. That's when the first real wave of unease hit me. I told myself maybe he was just walking to his own car. Maybe it was nothing. But the knot in my stomach wouldn't go away. Around midnight, I decided I'd had enough and told Claire I was heading out. She tried to convince me to stay a bit longer, but when I told her about the guy, her smile faltered. "Want me to walk you out?" she asked. I said no. I didn't want to make it a thing. That was a mistake. The night air had turned colder, and fog was beginning to roll over the field. My car was parked near the edge of the tree line, and the further I got from the barn, the quieter it became, the bass from the music fading into a dull, distant pulse. I clicked my key fob. The headlights flashed, cutting through the dark. For a second, everything looked normal. Then I noticed footprints, fresh ones, in the dirt beside my driver's door. Not tire tracks, footprints. I froze. My heart started hammering, but I forced myself to look around. The fog made everything look alive. Shadows moving, branches shifting. I unlocked the door quickly, got inside, and locked it. The engine sputtered before starting. As I put the car in reverse, my headlights illuminated something by the edge of the trees. A man, standing perfectly still, facing me. It was the same guy. I didn't even think. I slammed the car into drive and tore down the gravel road, dust cloud trailing behind me. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped my phone trying to call Claire. She didn't pick up. I texted her, "There's someone out here. Don't leave the barn." When I finally reached the main road, I forced myself to breathe. Maybe he was just some random drunk guy who'd wandered off. I told myself that over and over. But halfway home, I noticed headlights behind me. At first, I thought it was just another car. The roads weren't empty yet. But then it turned when I turned. Slowed when I slowed. It was following me. The drive from the barn to my house took about 15 minutes, but it felt like hours. Every time I glanced at my rearview mirror, the same pair of headlights glared back. The car kept just enough distance that I couldn't make out the driver's face. I thought about pulling over at a gas station, but there weren't any open ones on that stretch of road. I thought about calling 911, but part of me was afraid it'd turn out to be nothing, that I'd sound crazy. When I reached the intersection that led either home or toward the highway, I made a last-second decision and turned onto the highway instead. The car followed. That's when the panic truly set in. I pressed the gas pedal hard, hitting nearly 80 mph. The car behind me matched my speed. Its headlights flashed once, almost like a signal. I don't know what came over me, but I veered off the next exit toward an old industrial area. Warehouses, dark parking lots, dead ends. I figured if he kept following me there, I'd know for sure. He did. I pulled into an empty lot, slammed on the brakes, and jumped out, leaving the engine running. "What the hell do you want?" I shouted into the night. My voice cracked, echoing off metal walls. The other car stopped about 20 yards away. The driver's door opened slowly. And out stepped the same man from the fire. The neat clothes, the blank face. He didn't say anything, just stood there, staring at me. I backed up toward my car, trying to memorize his features, mid-30s maybe, short hair, no visible expression. Then he spoke. "You shouldn't drive alone at night," he said softly. His voice was calm, almost gentle. I got in the car and locked the doors. He took one step closer. I threw it into reverse, tires screeching, and sped off. When I looked in the mirror again, he was standing exactly where I'd left him, motionless. I didn't stop driving until I reached my driveway. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying it all in my head. The firelight, the footprints, his voice. In the morning, I told my mom everything. She insisted we go to the police, so we did. I gave them a full statement, description, car, everything I remembered. They said they'd check nearby cameras, but since he hadn't technically done anything illegal, there wasn't much they could pursue. That part stung the most. For weeks afterward, I jumped every time headlights appeared behind me at night. I started avoiding back roads entirely. Claire called me every day for a while, but eventually, we stopped talking as much once she moved. Life just moved on. Still, sometimes I wake up thinking I hear gravel crunching outside my window. It's been almost 8 years now. I'm 25, living in a different city, working as a photographer. I thought I'd left it all behind, that maybe it had just been a weird, random encounter. But last month I shot a small-town wedding near my hometown. When I went through the photos later, I noticed something in the background of one of them. A man standing by the edge of the trees. Same neat clothes, same blank stare, same face. I still don't know who he is, and I never want to find out.